Hello and welcome back. In the last episode, we've created a little menu for our game with icons here. This is what it looks like. And now we're going to make it appear on the screen. And hopefully we're going to be able to be in a situation where we're going to click a button and then, something happens. There's quite a few pieces to that puzzle. So perhaps we're going to make sure it appears on the screen. And when we click a button, some text will be displayed. That's a good starting point, isn't it? I suppose before we do anything, let's go and compile this menu and also head over to File and Save All. I frequently forget that. It's always a good thing to do that, especially if we were to use version control, which currently we're not. That might be a good topic for another video, putting an Unreal project under version control, because it's one of those things that makes life a lot easier. But we're doodling around, so that's all good. So I have a bit of a design choice to make, namely where am I going to put the code for this whole menu shenanigans. I want to keep it fairly simple and I don't want us to go through so many files. So the one we've already looked at here is the selection menu. We're going to look at the graph of that next. So that's one tab open, and the other one is going to be the Cinti character. That's also going to be a tab open. So this is going to be where I'm going to write all my code. This is kind of a personal preference. You could do this in other places of the game, but I think we're going to keep everything together because it's all character related. So I think we can just about get away with that. Ideally, I'd like to make it happen under the construction script, but sadly I can't because that doesn't allow me to add a blueprint widget. So this is what I'd have to do. I'm going to create the widget, put it onto the viewport, and sadly that doesn't let me do that. It's just not something that happens in the construction script. Don't really know why. It's fine. The event graph, that is where all my movement logic is happening. I might leave that intact as well. I could add it all on this sheet, on this piece of whatever it's called. But I'm one of those guys who really likes to compartmentalize things so that I can find what it is later. So I'm going to create myself a brand new graph under here, under graph. And I'm going to call that, just hit the plus icon, and I'm going to call that menu shenanigans, so that anything to do with the menu is happening here. Call it anything you like, but what that does is it opens up a brand new thing that is technically just as important as this, but it doesn't get involved with the movement component. So event graph, sadly I can't rename it. I can rename subsequent ones. One is always called event graph, under which we have literally every event here, but I'm going to leave that as it is. In fact, close it down because I'm not gonna look at the event graph. I'm going to look at my menu shenanigans here. Open that up. That's a new tab. So double click it. That'll open that new tab for you. And in it, I'm going to create a node that's called event begin play. Event begin play. There we go. And that's the first thing that fires once the object has been initialized. Now I can go and start creating my menu. So I'm going to go and say create widget. There it is now, comes up. Didn't happen in the blueprint widget. I'm going to go and select that from the drop down. I only have one called selection menu. That makes it very easy. This is now going to create an instance of this thing that we've made. Currently that's just a class in code. It's not really anything until we instantiate it and then bring it into our game world. Once we've done that, I'd like to grab a reference to that. So I'm going to go and promote this to a variable. Call that aptly selection menu. Those names are allowed to have spaces, by the way. So now I have a variable called selection menu down here. It doesn't have to be public, so I'm going to leave it as it is. But with that, I can now go and add it to the viewport. We're going to amend this code a little bit later. For now, I'm just going to go and drag out from the selection menu and say add to the viewport. And that's really all I needed to do to make that menu appear. Let's go and play this and see if I'm actually correct. Yes, I am. Look at that. Very good. Menu is there. That's nice. I can make some styling to that later, so that currently we see the button object and we see the transparent image on top of that. But I think that the light background is a little bit too light, really, isn't it? I can't, sometimes it's just not easy for me to make out the characters here. I like for them to maybe blend in a little bit better in my level. So I could go and make the actual button, which is now the light gray thing on top of which the image sits. I could make that a bit more transparent. I might do that. But that's kind of a design choice. Let's go get the basics in place and then iterate over it for our project to become better with every crack we take at it. So the menu is there, but we can't currently, we're only moving around here. We're not able to actually click a button on our menu. So maybe we're going to have a look at that next. In fact, I might actually set up the logic that lets us bring up the menu, like summon the menu, that it's right now it's there all the time. So maybe that's the first thing I should tackle. I want to be able to press a button, the menu comes up, and then I'll select something, and then I press another button, and then the menu goes away again. That's the kind of functionality I'm looking for here. So let's see how to do that. I suppose the first thing for that is let's dedicate a button for that. I was going to use, that's under Edit Project Settings here. I was going to use the tab button, but the tab button has an important function. It actually tabs through the menu option, so I might not use that. I might just go and use the bottom left Alt button. So under Input, we can set up some action mappings here. Hope you can see that. 2 are currently set up, Jump and Reset VR. We want another one. This is this one, Add Action Mapping. And that's going to be an event that I can call an input event. And I'm going to call that one Summon Menu. And for this event, I can choose one or more button presses that need to happen. So one is certainly going to be my keyboard, but later on when we're going to make this thing gamepad compatible, I'm going to add a gamepad value to that as well. So right now I'm going to head over to the keyboard thing, and perhaps I'm going to find this in the long list of stuff here somewhere. Left Alt, that's the one, Left Alt. Pick anything you like, but Left Alt sounds appropriate. That's all we need. We don't have to save anything. We just go close this down. And now back on my character, under the menu shenanigans, I should now have an event that lets me summon the menu. So if I go and type this in, Summon Menu, I get this action event, Summon Menu. And that is something that'll be called the moment somebody presses that button. We should go and grab a reference to, as soon as this happens, we're going to grab a reference to our menu and then just go set its visibility to on. So drag from the menu, set visibility. It's kind of a quick and dirty way to make that menu visible. And go connect the two. And that now makes an invisible menu visible. We probably don't really want for that to happen because now there's no way to get it back. So there's a couple of ways we can solve this, either with a flip-flop, or even better, we can set ourselves a property that keeps track of, is this menu currently in vision or not? And that's what I'm going to do. I could use a flip-flop, but I'm going to do a little trick later that will make the menu visible not with its visibility property, but with an animation. And that's much easier. We're using the visibility for now, just so that we can see it change. But yes, we're going to go and come up with a more elegant way of doing that later. So let's go create ourselves a variable called isMenuVisible. And if that's true, then the menu is in vision. And if it's not, then it'll go away. And we can go and set that later. So first of all, let's go and set its value now to on, because we've just made it visible. And that is that. This also requires for the menu, before we're going to put it on the viewport, to set its visibility to off. So let's go and add that here, set visibility, put it right into the path here, and set it to hidden. So now we have two things. We have the menu's actual visibility option on the menu, and we have our own variable that should be set in accordance with that, so that when we replace this logic later, we still have our own property that'll tell us is the menu in vision or not. So now with this, with our property, then we can go, before we actually make it visible, we can go and query, is it currently visible? And if it is, make it invisible. If it is not, then make it visible. So let's go from the back here then. Head over and grab ourselves a branch node to the front. Sometimes you have to code from the back. We're pressing a button. We're asking, is the menu currently visible? Grab that property. If it is not visible, so we're just going to go hold Control and drag this thing to the bottom. If it is not visible, then make it visible. If it happens to be visible, then hide it. So once again, we're going to go and grab that same selection menu, set visibility on the bottom branch, and say, let's make it hidden. And while we've done that, let's go and set that is menu visible property to off. On the top, it needs to be, is it visible? Yes. On the bottom, it needs to be set to off. And then, of course, we need to connect the true branch to that. Can tidy that up in a minute. But yes, that should now spawn the menu at the beginning of event begin play, should put it on the viewport, make it hidden by default. The moment we press a button, we should then go and say, hey, is it visible? No, it's not. Let's make it visible. Is it currently visible? Okay, let's make it hidden. Let's see if it works. No guarantees. But yeah, looks like we're not seeing anything. That's good. Let's press that left alt button. Menu comes up. Awesome. Press it again. Menu goes away. Haha. We deserve ourselves a cookie. I can still walk around, but I can bring up and hide the menu at will. That's nice. Excellent. Problem is, of course, I can't go and select anything just yet. So that needs to be tackled next. Let's do that before we can actually reach the menu. So even if I hover my cursor over it, that's not a good player experience. There's a couple of things that we need to do here. First of all, and I think I want to actually do this. This is getting large here. This whole logic about setting visibility, then setting another property, and maybe then doing other things. This is where it kind of gets complicated now. We need to go and set game modes and make sure the mouse cursor is visible and all that. So I think I'm going to go and refactor this code into its separate functions so that we have this branch, this branch node here still asking what should I do. But then we're just going to go, rather than calling 7 things at the top and 7 things at the bottom, I'm going to go make a function that encapsulates all that into its own little space. And for that, I can do, let me see if it works. If I go and grab all these things and then right click on it and say collapse to function, see if it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. Yes, it does work. That's awesome. Selection menu, sometimes it doesn't work quite as well as you'd think. So in my case, it has created an automatic output here. So I might actually just go Control Z and Control Z again. I'll do this myself. Thanks, Unreal. That's cool. Let's create our own 2 functions for hide menu and show menu. That's on the bottom here. Under just above variables and macros, we've got functions here. And let me go and create one that's called show menu and another one that's called hide menu. There. We can iterate over that and amend them as we see fit. But now that we've got that, we can go and call those functions. So this I might just go and copy because it's kind of worked really well a moment ago. Delete that. And on the false branch, we're going to go and call our own function, which is called show menu. And then on the bottom here, same thing. I'm going to go and make hide menu branch. There. This means our current blueprint is being left a little clearer and it's more obvious to me what's going on here. So under show menu, I can now do exactly what I did a moment ago there. I can go and set its visibility, set my property, but now I can just go and do other scary things here if I wanted to do that. So like in our case, we need to show the actual mouse cursor. So that is something that happens on the player controller. So we need to go get player controller. That is where the mouse cursor can kind of come out of. So set mouse cursor, set show mouse cursor, that's the one, to be enabled. So that means our mouse cursor pops up. That's good. So now we can go and see the mouse, see where we're actually clicking. It still means the character is gonna, the mouse position is still tied to where we're looking. So we don't really want to do that. We want to go and make sure we'll stop that by changing game modes. So we go set game mode to game and UI, or to game only. I'm going to say game and UI. That's perfect. Player controller needs to be plugged in here. Thankfully, we already have a reference to that. Make that a little bit prettier. The menu that we need to go and set into the focus so that we're avoiding the mouse having to be clicked on the menu first, that is, of course, our selection menu. So let's grab a reference to that out of here and put that in here. Widget to focus. We could drag another wire out from here, but you know, hey, let's just give our mind a rest. Yeah, something like that. That's nice. So we're setting the game mode to, so the input mode to game and UI, focusing on our widget. And now we perhaps like for our character to no longer be able to walk around. I mean, it'll work as it is right now. Bring the menu up. We can see the mouse cursor. No, we don't. We don't see the mouse cursor. It's probably still set to disabled, but we can still walk around. So that's nice. We can move the mouse, but we're no longer looking into the direction. We can click buttons. Nothing's happening yet. That's kind of cool. We're dealing with that next, but we can still walk around. So maybe I don't want that. Maybe I do want that. I haven't quite decided yet. Let's imagine we don't want that. Let's imagine we want the game to completely freeze. That can be set with also going from the player character. We're just going to grab another node of that. We can do that with set ignore move input, set and reset. That's quite nice. So we can do that. New move input is nothing. So that should now freeze my character the moment the menu is up here. And no, I can't. What a shame. Why not? Oh, I need to tick that box, don't I? So set new move input to basically something new, and yeah, perfect. I can still look around, so we can fix that as well simply by grabbing another one of these, like, you know, down here. Grab another node, set ignore look input. Also tick that box, make that a little bit prettier. And now, that's quite a tail here already, isn't it? I'm so glad we split this out into its own function. But yes, so now I go and hit Alt, and I can't look around and I can't move around, but my character is still breathing, so that's nice. There's no way to bring this back because we haven't set up the other thing yet. I've also haven't set up the cursor, so I think maybe let's go and do that first of all. Set mouse cursor, there we go. Show mouse cursor is deactivated, so let's activate that. That should show the mouse cursor now. And in our hide menu routine, we're going to have to remove all these things again. So let's see if we can remember how to do that. Set visibility to hidden, set menu invisible, then do the mouse cursor, and then do the game mode. Reverse that first. It's quite a lot of stuff, isn't it? So hide menu, first thing first, set is menu visible. Let's go set that to, no, it isn't anymore. There, reset. Then next step on the agenda, hide the mouse cursor. Doing this, so with get player controller again. Set show mouse cursor. And that is then hidden. So now it needs to be unset. Next on the agenda, set input mode game and UI. So we're going to set that back to just game mode. Set input mode to game only. Yeah, that short-term memory here. Ignore move and look input. This is now the reverser. That will be reset, ignore, look input. So first we set it, now we reset it. And this then, to make it nice and pretty, whoops. Reset, ignore, move input. See if it's correct. There's articles on all these things on my website. If you want to see this as a written form, lots of articles are on my website that describe all this in detail. Let's compile and hit play and see if it actually works. Whoops, that's not what's supposed to happen. Happens sometimes when you're not actually playing it from here. Select viewport, make it full screen, and then menu comes up. I can't walk around anymore. Menu doesn't quite disappear yet because we haven't set the visibility. We've set everything else except for the visibility of the menu. Yes, that is the one thing we haven't done in the whole show and hide thing. We haven't actually touched the visibility of the menu. Let's do that. Let's go do that the first thing we do this. So let's grab a reference to our selection menu. Set its visibility to hidden, of course. Welcome to the Cowboy Coder. There. Show menu, no movement, no looking. Hide menu, movement, and looking. All right. This is nice. So now we've got a menu kind of working and we can walk around. That's nice, but the menu itself doesn't really do anything. Let's just, before we move on to the next video, let's just quickly see how we can react to the menu. And that's of course back in the menu selection screen here. On any of these buttons that we can open up inside the horizontal box here, with any of these buttons at the bottom right here, we have events that we can react to on clicked. So each button has its own event, and as soon as we click one of them, it'll create an event in code for us. We can do that from here, and in fact I'll show you both options here. I'll click this button, up opens the code in which we may or may not want to be, and this now can be hooked up to something that that we want to do. So in our case, let's go print string, and let's say something like character 1. If we click that button, a message should appear that says character 1. We can do this in a different way as well. We can access those variables from here. These are all the button variables, and we can access these events from down here as well. If you've looked closely on our button character 1, we already have one set up. That's this one that we've just made. It now says view, but if I go over to character 2, it has this plus button. And if I go and click that, it comes up with another action event that I can react to once again. So I can go and say print string and say character 2. Well, oh, come on. Character 2. And now if we go and play, bring up the menu, pick our first character, it says character 1. Pick a second character, it says character 2. That is quite nice. Let me show you this in full screen. I'm really proud of this. We're totally getting there. We're totally getting there. Very exciting. So run around, bring up the menu, pick the first character, character 1. Pick it multiple times, in fact. Pick the second character, character 2. Pick the third one, nothing happens yet because we haven't set that up yet. But yeah, we're kind of slowly getting there. In the next video, I'd like to have a quick look at dimming down the white background on the buttons so that the characters appear a little bit better. So making that darker and also blending that in a little bit, taking the opacity down a little bit. And of course, hooking up the buttons so that something other than just a text message appears on the screen. And so that we can see that when we click a button, the actual skeletal mesh on our character is changed. Join me for that. I hope you had a lot of fun so far.